One wrong sleeping position, and you could wake up unable to move part of your body. I know that might sound hard to believe, but when I turned 65, one of my closest friends, still sharp, still driving himself to golf every week, experienced exactly that. The night before, he called me, cheerful as always. But the next morning, his wife was dialing 911 in panic. He had woken up unable to speak clearly, and his right arm wouldn't lift. A stroke. No pain. No warning signs, just like that. I've spent decades working with older adults, and what haunts me most is this. Many strokes don't come from smoking or poor diets or lack of exercise. They come from simple nighttime habits, small, seemingly harmless things we do while we sleep that quietly put our brain at risk, especially as we age. You see, while we sleep, our bodies are supposed to be resting and healing. But for those of us over 60, sleep is also a time when circulation can slow, blood pressure can spike, and one small position can make a big difference. In today's video, I want to walk you through 9 common sleep positions and bedtime habits I've seen again and again in older patients. Habits that could be silently raising your risk of stroke, brain bleeds, or sudden blood pressure spikes. If you or someone you love is over 60, I truly believe this is worth a few minutes of your time. It just might help you prevent something none of us want to face. And if today's video helps you in any way, I'd be grateful if you subscribe to The Elderly Way. It's where I share thoughtful, practical guidance for older adults, from health and sleep to the little things that make life easier and more comfortable. Feel free to leave a comment. I read everyone, and your words truly matter to me. Now then, let's begin. 1. Sleeping flat on your back without a pillow. It sounds harmless, even comfortable. Lying flat on your back, arms by your sides with no pillow. For many older adults, it's a habit that goes back decades. Some say it eases back pain. Others feel it helps them breathe better. But here's the part no one really talks about. Sleeping flat with your head level with your heart can quietly raise your risk of stroke during the night, and you may not feel a thing until it's too late. Why? Because when you lie completely flat, your brain is at the same level as your heart, and blood has a harder time draining from the brain. In younger folks, that's not usually a problem. But as we age, our blood vessels lose elasticity. Circulation slows down. Veins that drain blood from the brain have to work against gravity. And instead of flowing smoothly, blood can pool sluggish and still, making it easier for clots to form, especially in the early morning hours when blood pressure tends to rise naturally. Let me tell you about Leonard Whitaker, a 77-year-old retired mechanic from Michigan, still active, still fixing lawnmowers in his garage. Every night he'd lie down flat with no pillow, hands crossed over his chest like he did in the Navy. He believed it helped him sleep deeply. Then one morning, his wife Mary found him barely conscious. His eyes were open, but he couldn't speak. One side of his face had drooped. His right arm wouldn't move. At the hospital, a scan revealed a clot blocking his middle cerebral artery, a type of ischemic stroke. Doctors said blood had pooled too long in his brain overnight, and that his flat sleeping position likely played a role. They were able to break up the clot, but Leonard was never quite the same. His speech slowed. He now uses a walker. And every night Mary props him up gently with a wedge pillow, something they wish they'd known about years ago. Most people think flat sleeping is just about comfort. It's not. It's about blood flow to the most fragile organ you have. It's about protecting your memory, your speech, your ability to walk, your independence. So if you sleep flat or with your head level to your body, and you have high blood pressure, atrial fibrillation, sleep apnea, or narrowed carotid arteries, it's time to rethink that habit. The safest adjustment: elevate your head about 30 degrees. You don't need fancy gear, just 1 or 2 supportive pillows that lift your head slightly above your heart. Choose pillows that support the natural curve of your neck, nothing that pushes your chin too far forward. Leonard once looked at me and said, eyes filled with tears, "Doc, if someone had told me sleeping flat could lead to this, I would have changed long ago." Today, I hope to be that someone for you. 2. Sleeping on your stomach, the prone position. It's one of those habits that feels harmless, maybe even comforting, sleeping on your stomach. Some folks do it to ease back pain. Others like the snug, secure feeling it gives. But what many don't realize is that this position, especially in our later years, can quietly become one of the most dangerous for your brain. When you sleep face down, your neck has to twist sharply to the side just so you can breathe. That position places stress on the vertebral arteries, vessels that carry oxygen-rich blood up the back of the neck to the brain's balance and coordination center. If your pillow is soft, your face can sink down, compressing your carotid arteries. At the same time, veins responsible for draining blood from the brain can become kinked, slowing circulation. Blood pools, it thickens. Clots begin to form quietly while you sleep. These clots may sit undisturbed for hours, but when your blood pressure naturally rises in the morning, they can dislodge, travel to the brain, and block critical vessels, causing a stroke that's often severe. I'll never forget Ethel Lawson, 82 years old, a retired elementary school teacher from Ohio. Her daughter found her in an odd position, face down, struggling to speak, the left side of her body unresponsive. At the hospital, a scan revealed a major ischemic stroke in her cerebellum, the part of the brain responsible for balance. The cause wasn't high cholesterol or atrial fibrillation. It was narrowed arteries from age and years of sleeping face down with a twisted neck. Ethel survived, but life changed. She could no longer drive. She needed a walker. Every step became deliberate, cautious. And every time she came in for a checkup, she'd say, "I had no idea one sleeping position could take away so much." Medically speaking, sleeping in a prone position, with the neck twisted, can reduce blood flow through the vertebral arteries by up to 40%. If your pillow pushes your head back, the restriction is even worse. At the same time, your lungs can't fully expand, lowering your oxygen. CO2 builds up near your nose and mouth. Blood slows. Clots form more easily. Younger folks may wake up when oxygen drops too low. But in your 70s and 80s, that reflex often fades. Hypoxia, low oxygen, can last all night without any warning, and a stroke can strike while you're still asleep. If you snore heavily, have sleep apnea, or take sedatives, the risks are even greater. The airway collapses more easily, the body reacts more slowly, and stroke risk rises sharply. If you or someone you care for still sleeps on the stomach, I urge you to try side sleeping instead. Use a firm pillow to keep the neck aligned with the spine. Even better, lie on your left side with your head slightly elevated. This helps blood flow more freely to your brain and heart while easing pressure on your lungs and stomach. Because sometimes, what feels comforting is quietly pressing down on the very vessels that keep your brain alive. And small changes tonight could make all the difference tomorrow. 3. Sleeping with your head under the covers. It's a small, personal habit that many older adults carry with them through the years, pulling the blanket over their head while they sleep. Maybe it's to block out a partner's snoring, a draft from the window, or the streetlight outside. Maybe it's just the way you grew up, finding warmth and comfort under the covers. But as we age, what once made us feel safe can slowly become a hidden danger. When you sleep with your head completely covered, you're not just blocking out light, you're limiting your access to fresh air. Through the night, oxygen levels around your face drop. Carbon dioxide, the waste your body exhales, builds up. When you're young, your body might adjust, but in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, the brain becomes more sensitive. It needs steady oxygen. Without it, your blood thickens, circulation slows, and clots can begin to form. I remember Mr. Richard Hale, 81 years old, a retired postal worker from Iowa, quiet, thoughtful. He told me he'd always slept with his head under the covers, especially in the winter. "It makes me feel safe," he said. One morning, Richard didn't wake up on time. His wife found him disoriented, unresponsive. In the ER, his oxygen levels were dangerously low. A scan showed he'd suffered a silent stroke in the early hours, caused not by heart disease or high cholesterol, but by low oxygen during sleep, compounded by age-related circulation changes. One contributing factor, sleeping with his head wrapped in a blanket. During deep sleep, especially REM, your brain demands consistent oxygen, but under the covers you breathe in stale air. Oxygen drops. Your heart pumps faster to compensate. Blood pressure swings. All of this strains the aging blood vessels in your brain. Add dehydration and slower nighttime circulation, and the risk of clot formation rises sharply. And the most dangerous part, you won't feel it happening. You'll drift off feeling warm and safe, but your brain may be slowly suffocating. And by the time the damage is done, it may be too late to undo it. Studies show even mild oxygen deprivation during sleep increases the risk of stroke and cognitive decline in older adults, not just for people with sleep apnea, but for anyone whose breathing is impaired by position or environment. If you, or someone you care about, sleeps with a blanket over the head, even just in the winter, I urge you to reconsider. Use a sleep mask instead of a blanket to block light. Try earplugs if noise is an issue. Keep your room comfortably warm and use breathable, lightweight blankets. Never cover your face fully or even partially, because this isn't about comfort, it's about safety. It's about giving your brain the oxygen it needs to heal, restore, and carry you into tomorrow. Richard doesn't sleep under the covers anymore. He uses a gentle wedge pillow, soft room lighting, and his blanket stays neatly folded below his shoulders. At a recent visit, he told me quietly, "I never thought something that felt safe could be so dangerous." And he's not the only one, because in sleep, it's often what we don't know that hurts us most. 4. Sleeping in a recliner chair. It's a common habit, especially among older adults. When lying flat in bed becomes uncomfortable due to joint pain, back stiffness, acid reflux, or shortness of breath, many people find themselves turning to the recliner. Maybe it starts as a temporary fix, but over time that chair becomes the new bed, a soft blanket, a quiet TV hum, the familiar tilt of the backrest. It feels safe. But what feels safe isn't always what's best. And in my work as a neurologist, I've seen how night after night of sleeping in a chair can quietly increase the risk of stroke without a single warning sign. The human body was designed to rest flat, where blood and oxygen flow evenly between the heart and brain. But when you sleep at a semi-upright angle, say 45 to 60 degrees, gravity starts to work against your circulation. It does two things. First, it pulls blood downward, reducing the amount reaching your brain. Second, it compresses the large veins in your hips and thighs, slowing blood flow in the legs. For younger folks, that's not usually a big problem. But after 60, the picture changes. Blood gets thicker from mild dehydration, vessels become narrower, and the heart pumps less efficiently. That slow-moving blood can begin to pool, especially in the lower limbs. And pooled blood makes clots. If one of those clots travels upward during the night, toward your brain, the outcome can be devastating. I remember Barbara Keene, 79 years old, a charming florist from Kentucky with a sharp mind and a warm smile. After a hip surgery, she found it too painful to sleep in bed. Just for a few nights, she said, but pain lingered. The recliner became her new bed. One morning, her daughter found her still seated in the chair, alert but confused. Her left arm hung limp. At the hospital, scans revealed a lacunar stroke, a small, deep brain stroke caused by a tiny clot, not from heart disease, not from arrhythmia, but from poor circulation due to prolonged chair sleeping. Barbara's legs had often been swollen in the mornings, an early sign, but she hadn't thought much of it. Medically, sleeping upright weakens the baroflex, the body's way of keeping blood pressure balanced between the heart and brain. In bed, this system works more efficiently. In a chair, it's disrupted. Add in medications, dehydration, or tight clothing, and you've got a perfect setup for blood clots, forming quietly while you sleep. If you or someone you care about regularly sleeps in a recliner, I urge you to treat this as a gentle wake-up call. Sleep isn't just rest, it's recovery, and it works best when your position supports your body's natural circulation. If elevating your head is necessary, consider an adjustable bed or a medical-grade wedge pillow. That way, your upper body is raised without compressing your legs. Also, make it a habit to move your legs before bed and after waking. Just a few minutes of gentle motion can help prevent clotting. Barbara now sleeps back in her bed, head slightly elevated, supported by a side pillow. She once told me, "I thought I was giving my body a break. Turns out I was making it work harder." Sometimes, the danger isn't in moving too much. It's in staying too still, especially in a position that keeps your blood from flowing where it needs to go. 5. Sleeping on your right side with your arm under the pillow. It's a sleep position many people love, especially older adults. You curl up on your right side, rest your head on a soft pillow, and slide your right arm underneath for extra support. It feels familiar, comfortable, safe. But as a neurologist, I can tell you, this may be one of the most dangerous sleeping positions for older adults, not because it causes pain, but because it puts constant pressure on the very arteries and veins that carry blood to and from your brain, particularly the carotid and subclavian arteries. When you sleep this way for hours, night after night, you slowly restrict blood flow. Veins get compressed, arteries narrow, blood pools and thickens, and eventually a clot can form without you ever knowing. That clot may stay quiet all night, until, around dawn, when your blood pressure naturally rises, it breaks loose and travels to your brain. That's all it takes, a few seconds, and your brain is suddenly starved of oxygen. I'll never forget Ellis Randall, 75 years old, a Vietnam veteran from North Carolina. Strong, independent, full of life. He used to say he could still outrun his grandkids. He always slept on his right side, just like he had in the service, his right arm under the pillow for neck support. One morning, his wife found him halfway out of bed, disoriented and unable to move his left side. At the hospital, a scan revealed a right hemisphere stroke caused by a clot in his middle cerebral artery. He had no history of high cholesterol, diabetes, or smoking. So where did the clot come from? After reviewing his routine, the picture became clear. Years of right-side sleeping with pressure on his neck and shoulder had slowed his circulation. A neck ultrasound revealed narrowing in his carotid artery, likely worsened by his sleep posture. The clot had formed during the night and broke loose just before he woke. Ellis survived, but now he walks with a brace and attends weekly therapy. He told me quietly, "I never thought the way I slept could turn against me." And it's not just the blood vessels. That position also compresses the brachial plexus, the nerve bundle running from your neck through your shoulder and into your arm. Over time, that pressure not only causes numbness but sends stress signals to the brain, disrupting your sleep in ways you may not notice. In older adults, the nerves are more fragile, the blood vessels less flexible, and the recovery slower. If you sleep on your right side with your arm under your head, now might be the time to reconsider. Try sleeping on your left side. Keep your head gently elevated. Place your arm in front of your body or alongside it, not under your head. Use a pillow that supports the natural curve of your neck and keeps your spine in line. That one simple change could mean protecting your memory, your speech, your ability to walk. You may not feel the impact overnight, but your brain will. Your blood will. And one day your body will thank you, because what you don't know while you're sleeping can change everything when you wake up. 6. Restless, tossing and turning all night. As we grow older, sleep often becomes less restful, waking up multiple times, flipping from side to side, feeling tired even after 7 or 8 hours in bed. You might blame it on aging, on sore joints, or simply needing to use the restroom at night. But what if I told you this constant movement in your sleep might not just be a symptom, but a warning? As a neurologist, I see sleep as a time when the brain restores circulation, balances pressure, and clears out waste. When that process is disrupted, night after night, the impact can be serious, especially for older adults. Every time you toss and turn, roll over, twist your neck, change position, blood flow to the brain shifts. In younger people, the body adjusts easily. But in your 70s or 80s, where arteries are stiffer, veins narrower, and vessel walls more fragile, these sudden shifts can briefly reduce blood flow to the brain. Repeated over and over, this adds stress your body may not handle well. Add in dehydration, lower oxygen levels, or unstable blood pressure, and stroke risk rises. And here's the part most people miss. Restless sleep may not just be the result of poor circulation. It may be your brain's way of asking for help. Let me share the story of Nancy Delgado, 76 years old, a retired piano teacher from Colorado. Organized, thoughtful, always polished, she even ironed her pillowcases before bed. But for months she woke up feeling exhausted. Her husband noticed she moved constantly in her sleep, rolling over every 10-15 minutes. At first they chalked it up to age, but soon came headaches, morning dizziness. And then one night she woke up with a numb right hand and slurred speech. An MRI revealed a mild ischemic stroke, likely a few hours before she awoke. But her heart was fine, her cholesterol normal. The real issue, a sleep study and vascular scan showed disrupted brain circulation throughout the night. Her brain had been under strain for months, causing blood flow to drop, clots to form, and warning signs to be missed. This isn't rare. Restless sleep in older adults can lead to blood pressure that doesn't lower at night, increasing early morning stroke risk, spikes in cortisol, the stress hormone, impaired brain drainage systems, allowing toxins and inflammation to build/poor oxygen delivery to tiny brain vessels. This isn't theory. It's your body speaking to you every night. Have you ever woken up in a sweat, with a pounding heart, with numbness, stiffness, or dizziness? Don't dismiss those signs. They're not normal aging. They're red flags from your nervous system. So what can you do? Start by treating restless sleep as a symptom, not a habit. Avoid caffeine or alcohol in the evening. Keep your bedroom cool, quiet, and dark. Use light, layered blankets instead of heavy ones. Try a body pillow to stabilize your posture and reduce unconscious movement. Most importantly, if you or your partner notice frequent tossing or leg movements, consider a sleep study to assess your brain's circulation. Nancy now sleeps with a soft neck pillow, keeps water by her bed, and practices deep breathing before sleep. She told me, "I used to think waking up tired was just normal. I didn't know it was a warning I ignored every night." She was right. Because when sleep becomes a silent struggle, your brain remembers. And if you don't listen, your body eventually will. 7. Skipping your blood pressure or heart medication at night. For many older adults, taking medications becomes a daily routine. But sometimes you forget. Or maybe you feel fine and think, "I'll skip it just this once." You might be tired, you might be out of pills, or maybe you're just worried about side effects. But here's what most people don't realize: missing just one dose, especially at night, can quietly and seriously raise your risk of stroke. And in older adults, the damage may happen while you're asleep with no warning at all. Let me explain. Our blood pressure naturally follows a rhythm, higher during the day, lower at night. That nighttime dip is important. It gives your blood vessels a chance to rest. But if you have high blood pressure, atrial fibrillation, or heart disease, your body may no longer manage this rhythm well on its own. That's why your doctor prescribes evening medications to protect your heart and brain while you sleep. When you skip that dose, especially medications like beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, ACE inhibitors, blood thinners like warfarin or low-dose aspirin, you remove your body's safety net. Your blood pressure may spike during the early morning hours, typically between 2 and 6 a.m., right when most strokes occur. Your heart may beat faster or irregularly, and if your vessels are already narrow from age or cholesterol, that sudden surge may trigger clot formation. And once that clot forms, it doesn't stay put. Let me tell you about Harold Green, 72, retired electrician from Wisconsin, healthy, took walks every day, ate well, no smoking, no heart problems. He had mild hypertension, and his doctor gave him a small evening dose of blood pressure medication. One night, Harold was watching a game and simply forgot to take it. "I'll take it tomorrow," he thought. But by morning it was too late. His wife found him with slurred speech and a slightly drooped face. Within an hour, he was in the hospital, diagnosed with a moderate ischemic stroke. Imaging showed a clot in the left side of his brain, most likely formed during the early morning, when his blood pressure rose without medication. He later told me, "One missed pill and I lost my voice. I won't let it take anything else." As we age, little things matter more. One skipped pill isn't a small thing anymore. Physiologically, here's what happens. With medication, blood pressure stays controlled, vessels stay calm. Without it, pressure rises, right arrow vessel walls are strained, right arrow platelets become more active. Right arrow blood flow becomes turbulent, right arrow clots form. In younger bodies, flexible arteries and thinner blood can buffer this. But in aging vessels, where blood is thicker and walls are fragile, one small clot can change everything. So if you're on blood pressure, heart, or anticoagulant meds, take them consistently. Set a reminder. Keep a pill box near your bed. Ask family to check in. Make it a sacred part of your evening routine. Because sometimes the thing that saves your life isn't something new you start doing, but something small you never forget. One pill, one night, that's all it takes. 8. Sleeping in a cold room without proper neck support. Many older adults believe that sleeping in a cool room helps them sleep better. A little chill in the air, a warm blanket, a quiet space. It sounds like the perfect setting for restful sleep. Some even crack open a window at night or turn the thermostat down, thinking it's healthier or saves energy. But here's what many don't realize. If your room is too cold and your neck isn't properly supported, your blood vessels may constrict, reducing blood flow to the brain. And over time, this can silently raise your risk of a stroke during the night. As we age, our bodies lose some of their ability to regulate temperature, especially during sleep. Cold air causes vasoconstriction, the narrowing of blood vessels. This is especially concerning around the neck, where two critical arteries run, the carotid arteries, the vertebral arteries. Now imagine sleeping in a cold room with your head tilted downward or twisted to the side and no proper pillow to keep your neck aligned. The cold tightens the vessels. Poor positioning compresses them further. The result? Reduced blood flow to the brain, less oxygen, and in aging vessels where circulation is already slower and clotting risk is higher, this becomes a setup for a nighttime stroke. Let me share the story of Loretta Dixon, 78 years old, a retired nurse from Montana. Sharp, witty, full of life. She loved cool nights, always slept with her window slightly open even in winter. She curled up under a blanket, neck bent, using a thin pillow. One morning her son found her unresponsive, eyes open but unfocused. She couldn't sit up. At the hospital, they diagnosed a brainstem stroke, one of the most serious types, affecting movement, balance, and even the ability to swallow. No heart disease, no missed medications, no smoking. But one clear factor, years of sleeping in cold air with poor neck support, had quietly restricted blood flow to the base of her brain. A small clot formed and did its damage before morning ever came. What seems harmless, temperature and pillow choice, can have serious consequences. Here's what happens. Cold air narrows your blood vessels. A poor pillow bends your neck, compressing those same vessels. Together, they reduce oxygen to your brain, especially dangerous when your blood pressure naturally rises before dawn. And in older adults, where even mild cervical degeneration or artery narrowing is common, this combination becomes risky. So what can you do? Keep your room cool but not cold, around 64-68 degrees F, 18-20 degrees C. Use a supportive pillow that keeps your neck in line with your spine. Avoid bending your neck forward or twisting your head to one side. Don't let cold air blow directly onto your neck, whether from a fan, vent, or open window. These adjustments may seem small, but at this stage of life, small things make all the difference. Loretta is slowly recovering. She now sleeps with a contoured neck pillow, keeps her room comfortably warm, and no longer opens the window at night. At her last visit, she told me, "I never imagined a pillow and a bit of cold air could harm my brain. I truly didn't know." And that's the most dangerous part. What we don't know often feels harmless until it isn't. Because the way we used to sleep may not be the way our body needs us to sleep now. 9. Going to bed right after a heavy meal or alcohol. Many older adults believe that a hearty dinner and a nightcap help you wind down before bed. It may feel like a comfort ritual, but it can also set a hidden trap. As a neurologist, I need you to know, sleeping too soon after eating heavily or after drinking alcohol, especially if you're over 60, can trigger a stroke at night. No pain, no warning, just one ordinary evening, and by morning, everything has changed. Here's why it's risky. When you eat a large, salty, fatty, or sugary meal late at night, blood is diverted to your digestive system, not your brain. In younger people, the body can handle this shift easily. But past the age of 60, with stiffer blood vessels and weaker circulation, your brain may not get enough oxygen. Add alcohol to the mix. At first, it relaxes you, making you sleepy. But a few hours later, as the alcohol breaks down, your blood vessels may constrict, your blood pressure spikes. Your heart rate may speed up. This phenomenon, called rebound vasoconstriction, disrupts stable blood flow and raises clotting risk while you're asleep and completely unprotected. Let me tell you about Gerald Thompson, 74, a retired farmer from Nebraska. Healthy lifestyle, no heart disease. He followed a routine: dinner at 7 p.m., a bourbon at 8, then bed at 8:30. One winter night, he had a large holiday meal: turkey, gravy, mashed potatoes, dessert, plus his usual drink. He went to bed satisfied and slept soundly. By 4 a.m., his wife found him unresponsive, cold and still. After immediate hospitalization, scans showed a severe stroke in his frontal lobe caused by a clot forming during sleep. No atrial fibrillation, no missed medication, just one heavy meal and one familiar drink before bed. He survived, but lost his ability to speak. His wife, tearful, said, "We thought we were doing everything right. We never imagined a simple dinner could rob us of him." As we age, our digestion slows. Food stays in the stomach longer, keeping blood flow away from the brain. Alcohol dehydrates us, triggers vascular constriction, and disrupts heart rhythm, creating conditions for a clot to form. And while you sleep deeply, your body's warning systems may not be alert enough. What should you do instead? If you drink alcohol, do it earlier in the day and keep it minimal. After a heavy meal, wait at least 2–3 hours before lying down. Stay hydrated at dinner to avoid nighttime dehydration. Limit excess salt, sugar, and fat in your evening meal. Remember, feeling sleepy after alcohol isn't restful. It may signal low oxygen and poor recovery sleep. This isn't about renouncing wine or dieting severely. It's about treating your body at this age with respect. You've lived fully and worked hard. Don't let one well-intentioned dinner derail everything you've built. Now that we've come to the end of this journey, you might be asking yourself, is sleep really that complicated? So what should I start doing tonight? First, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for staying with me through the entire video, not just out of curiosity, but because you genuinely care about your health, or maybe someone you love. What we talked about today isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to remind you that at this stage of life, even small changes can make a big difference. Not by doing more, but by doing smarter. Here on The Elderly Way, I don't share complicated science. I share what truly matters, especially after you've turned 60, 70, or 80. And sleep, something so ordinary, is actually when your brain needs the most protection. If this video helped you realize something, I'd love to hear from you. Even a short comment like "I get it" or "I'll try to change" might help someone else who reads it. And if you found this helpful, I invite you to subscribe to The Elderly Way and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any gentle, practical advice made just for this stage of life. You're still in control, and sometimes the way you sleep is the way you protect your entire self. Wishing you a peaceful night. See you in the next video.